Media Peruana Knits here, bringing you Knitting 102. This new series of 5 free knitting tutorials is a follow-up to the series I released about a year ago now, Knitting 101. Knitting 101 was designed for brand new knitters who perhaps were looking for a new hobby to pick up during quarantine. And Knitting 102 is here to help you take your knitting to the next level and learn a few more advanced skills to add to your knitting toolkit. So if you are a brand new knitter, never touched needles and yarn before, you want to check out Knitting 101, and I will go ahead and include that link here so you can pop right over there and get started. But if you are a beginner knitter, meaning that you've already done a bit of knitting and you have learned to cast on, knit, purl, and bind off, then you're going to be ready here for Knitting 102. The skills that we're going to be covering in Knitting 102 are knitting in the round, which means knitting in a circle to produce things that are circular, like hats and socks and sweater sleeves often. We'll also be learning increasing and decreasing. That means either adding or subtracting the number of stitches on your needle to either make your fabric bigger or smaller. We will also learn what is called picking up stitches, which is how to begin a new section of fabric building on an existing section of fabric. And then the last thing we are going to talk about is how to buy yarn. There's a lot of yarn out there. You have to know what you're looking for so that you get the right thing for your project. So that is going to be a lesson number 5, how to buy yarn. Make sure you get what you need and what you're going to be happy with. So what will you need for Knitting 102? You only need a couple of more things beyond what you had in Knitting 101. So again, you want to have some worsted weight yarn. You can tell that it is worsted weight because it will often say worsted, and it has this little itty bitty yarn ball that is not really focusing in, but it has this little yarn ball on the label that says 4. And in this case, does also say worsted weight. So that is the yarn that you want. You will also need a circular knitting needle, 16 inches, ideally for this particular tutorial. This is a circular needle. See, it has pointed on either end and a cable in the middle so that you can bring it around and make a circle. Aptly named. So you want the correct size for your worsted weight yarn. That is usually a 7 or an 8, US 7 or US 8, 4.5 millimeter or 5 millimeter. And then the last thing that we're going to add here are these. These are called double pointed needles. You want them to be the same size, so a US 7 or 8, 4.5 or 5 millimeter. Double pointed needles have points at both ends, double pointed, and are straight, and will usually come in a set of 4 or 5. Either one is fine for what we're going to be doing in these tutorials. I personally like to get sets of 5, so I have an extra one. I will not in the tutorial actually be using all 5. I will only be using 4, but it's nice to have a spare, particularly if you buy wooden needles, which every once in a while will get stepped on and snapped in half. All right, so those are the materials you are going to need. Let's go ahead and start learning about some knitting with our first video on increasing or making your fabric bigger.